Okay, so what you have here in front of you is all the supplies you're going to need for a general setup for a tattoo. And what we have here basically is a box of gloves. Now there's two different types of gloves you can use for tattooing. One of them is going to be latex gloves. Those come in a variety of different colors as well as nitrile. And this box is nitrile. Now what the difference between the two types of gloves is latex can be allergenic. A lot of people develop an allergy to latex, which causes your hands to become very itchy and swollen and irritated. Not everybody has that allergy, and even people that don't can develop that over a prolonged period of usage with latex. So I'm choosing to use nitrile gloves when I tattoo. So we have that. You're going to need paper towels, obviously, to clean it off. Now, as far as the paper towels go, there's obviously several different types of paper towels, and these particular ones are Vivas. They're made by Kleenex, and they actually have a very soft texture to them, which is good for the client because repetitive wiping with a coarse paper towel is going to cause excessive irritation to the skin and, discomfort for the client. And next we have is green soap. It's actually called Tincture of Green soap. This can be purchased at any kind of tattoo supply company, Kingpin, Icon, etc. This comes in a 1 gallon jug and it's diluted with distilled water. Now this type of bottle I prefer to use. You can use either a squeeze bottle like this or a spray bottle, similar to like a bottle of Windex that creates a spray and you spray it on the skin. I particularly don't like to use that simply because when you have a spray bottle, it tends to make a mess. You're not only spraying the area you're tattooing or working with or the paper towel, you're kind of spraying a general area, whereas this creates a nice, smooth, steady stream, which can be easily controlled. Now there's also a foam bottle that dispenses the liquid inside of the bottle, and as it travels up, it turns it into a foam. Now it's preference. I personally don't like to use it because there's not enough fluid comes out. I like to have a decent amount of soap when I clean off, and to me that works the best. Again, that's all personal preference. Next we have here is ink caps. These come in bags of 500, 1,000, couple thousand, and they come in various different sizes. I personally like to use a larger diameter ink cap simply because when you're dipping your machine repetitively, you have more ink to work with, so you have less chance to run out and stop and refill in the middle of a tattoo. And also you have a larger target area. You're not trying to stick a 13 mag needle into a tiny little ink cap. So it's easier, it lasts longer, and even though you could technically be wasting a little more ink, I wouldn't really worry about that too much. It's always better to use a larger diameter ink cap. Next we have our ink we're going to use. This particular type of ink is Dynamic Black. I use Dynamic Black for solid black, and that would be outlining work or the preliminary step in black and gray shading for, say, a portrait, any kind of area that has heavy shadowing, or tribal work, or anything that has to be just straight solid black, I use Dynamic for. Power supply, pretty straightforward. This connects from the wall and supplies power to your tattoo machine. Several different types of these, varying from price from around $60, $80 all the way up to $300, $400. This is an intermediate power supply. I believe this one ran me about 150, 200 bucks. It does the job very well, and it's got one port here for your foot switch and 2 ports for 2 different clip cords, which is this right here. So you can actually set up 2 different tattoo machines with separate clip cords, run them at the same time, and when you get done outlining with one machine, you can switch this button and have the knobs pre-adjusted and start your shading immediately without having to stop or reset or change your gloves or anything like that. It's all ready to go with a flip of a switch, which is very convenient. Next we have tape. Tape is for your drop cloth. The drop cloth goes between, it's a barrier between whatever kind of counter you're working on and where all your materials go. It has a paper side with an impervious clear plastic membrane on the other, so your ink or A&D or whatever will not seep through and stain or ruin whatever kind of counter you're working on. Next we have is a dual blade razor. That's for shaving, obviously. Now, the type of razor you use does come down in preference, but it is always better, in my opinion, to use the cheapest type of razor you can find with the most blades in it. So you kind of find a right balance for you, but it needs to have at least 2 blades, in my opinion, because if you have a really cheap single bladed razor and you have to constantly go over and over the skin to get the hair off and make sure the skin's nice and clean, you're going to irritate the skin a lot. And so before you even start the tattoo, you're going to have skin that's already swollen, red, and irritated, which is, you know, not a good starting point. So if you have a razor with multiple blades, the shaving goes much quicker, less irritation, smoother, easy for everybody. This, I believe you can get a package of these for a couple bucks, dual blade razor. And we have our tattoo machine. This particular machine right here is a Mickey Sharp's Paul Rogers. This is for black and gray shading. I'm just showing you this just for a reference point so you can kind of see what I'm working with here. And what you see on here is rubber bands. Now, rubber bands are used to keep, now again, the machine theory part, I'm going to go into detail in a different segment, but just so you get a rough idea what I'm talking about now, I'm explaining this to you. So rubber bands on the machine are to keep your needle in line. Now, this is a individually packaged, pre-sterilized tattoo grip, stem, and tube tip. So what you do is when you open this up, you slide your individually packaged and pre-sterilized needle of your selected size, whether it be for outlining or shading. Place the needle in the tube, slide it into the chuck in the tattoo machine. You want to align it up correctly. The grommet goes in the eye of the needle right here. I'll actually open this up and give you a demonstration here in a minute. But the grommet goes in the eye of the needle. That goes in the armature bar. And the rubber bands in the tattoo machine are going to actually hold the needle in place. They're going to pull the needle in towards the tattoo machine, and so the needle rides correctly in the tube. But just so that you have the idea of your general setup as a tattoo machine, I use 2 rubber bands as a personal preference because one doesn't seem to be quite enough to hold it in place with enough strength, and any more than 2 can be a little overkill. It can be a little too much, and it's put too much tension on the needle inside the tube, and what happens is it tends to slow it down, and so you tend to have to use an excessive amount of power to keep the machine running at the correct speed when it's actually not necessary.